I'm here today with Abe. Can I call you Abe? Is
You
that
know,
cool?
actually, I fucking hate that nickname. Nobody that knows me would have ever called that to my face, but I'll let you do it.
Okay. So I'm here with Abe to talk about Nuclear Power Trio. For those of you that don't know, he's not in the band, but he's the manager, which
That's right.
which which is incredible. Incredible that you got this gig. They have a new album coming out, Wet Ass Plutonium, out July 28th on Metal Blade Records.
That's
First
right.
of all, I just want to say thank you for taking some time. I was going to say out of your busy schedule, but I don't know how busy you are.
Well, I was a long time over there on the other side, and last thing I know, I was in a theater and fucking just thought I heard the fucking pyrotechnic go off in the show or something, but ended up being my head popping. But then, yeah, I'm just sitting there for a long time, just kind of, enjoying the afterlife. And I got an email from Vladdy P. He's telling me they had Robbie Downey Jr. was managing the band for a while. And not sure, I'm thinking it's maybe like some sort of abbreviation for suspect. But Vladdy P said to me that, Robbie was acting sus, he said rather sus. And he asked me if I'd be interested in managing the band, and I thought, fuck it, can always
Why
go back
not?
to being dead,
Yeah, I was going to say I'm thinking when you go to a show these days, you probably prefer to be in the general admission versus the balcony.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was talking to JFK about this, and he said he was like always back into the left, you know. It's like in the theater you catch him back that way, and he says about it. It's
Yeah,
fun. We can have laugh. We have laughs about getting shot in the head as presidents.
yeah, it's. I'm sure it sucked. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant at all, and it sucks even more when you don't see it coming.
Oh, it might have been actually a little bit better because you don't know that, It's like when they're gonna give you a shot or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like they say they're gonna do it on three, but they do it on two.
On two.
Right?
So let's talk about Nuclear Power Trio. Can you shed some light on how this perhaps unlikely trio got together? I mean, every villain, every superhero has its own origin story. So what's the
Right.
origin story for Nuclear Power Trio?
The origin story basically came about that it really was between excuse me, not Vladdy, but originally Kemi and Donnie, and they were sharing love letters back and forth. Dealing with like the standard, nuclear proliferation type of conversations. Back when Donnie was president, and they really grew quite fond of each other and fell in love, as they said in their own words. But so they decided that what the greatest thing that they could do to proliferate peace. They both had a strong like internal drive uh, to bring together the world in peace and harmony. And so what they did is they saw that Donnie found out Kimmy played drums, and Kimmy knew that Donnie shredded, and so they basically put it together that they were going to get together and do a little jam. And they put it together. Jam was pretty good. Uh, you know, a bit proggy, but there was that fucking heavy element into it as well. And so they decided to get the drummer. That drummer didn't work out, so they ended up getting they switched positions actually, but then they ended up getting Vladdy P. Found out he's playing bass, and they put it together, and they just said, "Screw all this politics shit." It's like so difficult to get anything done with all the bureaucracy, and they're like, music is such a better vessel to get the
Yeah.
message across of peace. So that was pretty much it, man. Put the record out. I mean, we did one song. The Metal Blade saw the song on YouTube, and but 10 out of 10 would sign. And so we contacted them, and they said, "Yeah, we'd love to sign the band." And so we put together a group of songs, signed it during the whole pandemic thing they did. That was a clear and present rager, and then did the Wet Ass Plutonium is like the first time they're really getting to put everything together.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little bit shocked that Donnie is on guitar because I honestly felt that maybe the small fingers would be much better suited for bass picking.
Well, that's funny, because I always remember seeing the guy talking about hands and playing bass, or playing guitar and the size of his hands and stuff. And then you see guys playing for the Pope, they've got no hands, they're playing with their toes. So it really kind of puts it all into perspective for you.
Yes, yes. So when it came to Wet Ass Plutonium, what would you say would be the main inspiration for the music on that album?
Main inspiration, I would say, is peace. They always talk about like fun, right? Like fun is like something that's sort of difficult to describe, but overall something that causes amusement or enjoyment. And that's really the message that they kind of internalize when they're writing the stuff. It's like about, is the part fun? Is the music fun? And when they do it that way, it just comes out a lot better. I think they've got a lot of inspiration from different world music. There was a lot of the boys ended up in Miami and did some writing down in Miami. So there's a strong the Latin element was always there, right? But there's a strong like synthwave element to it this time.
Yeah.
Well.
Now that makes a lot of sense, because when I was listening to the record, I felt like I was listening to something that could be a soundtrack from Miami Vice. So,
very, very much Miami Vice inspired.
Yeah, there's a huge Miami Vice vibe on this whole album.
Yes, very much. Just going down there was a little bit of a tiff going on there between Vladi, Kimmy, and Donnie on the other side. They ended up going and doing a music video on Mars, and difficult to get up there and all that stuff. And difficult to get back. It's quite a dangerous journey to go out to Mars there. And when they came back, Donnie actually left them, Vladdy P and Kimmy, on Mars. So a bit difficult for them to figure out getting a ride back from Mars. But Donnie said he was late for a golf tournament, and that the original Craigslist ad said that the band members needed to provide their own transportation. So they got left there. They were quite pissed at Donnie. And Vladdy and Kimmy ended up going down to Miami themselves. And Donnie had to sort of work his way back into their graces. And so he ended up doing it, and they ended up all bonding down there. Took a couple, I believe they were taking some, what are they called? Microdots or something like that. They got together and were jamming in these synthwave clubs and really just getting into that vibe. They were all fans of the show back in the day. The Miami Vice, and so they rented some Lamborghinis and drove around the South Beach and the Ocean Drive, and had a great time. And so that made its way into the music. They were like, let's get some synth on here, man.
And that's going to be my next question to you, because coming into the record, I had heard some of the stuff that the band had released before, like a song here and a song there. But coming into this record, I was expecting the album to be more drums, bass, guitars. And it's not the case. There's a lot of synths on this record. Is that the vibe that they got in Miami, or was that the vibe that they had even before going to Miami?
I think there was like a strong, there's a bit of it on the last record, if you can even hear it. I remember being dead and listening to we've got dead Spotify over there, and I was listening to Clear and Present Rager, and even I'm grabbing by the Pyongyang. There was there's a bit of that synth in there. You can kind of hear it. And I think that song did really well with the band, and it was one of their favorites, and everyone sort of loved that, 80s synth-esque vibe that was on there. And so I think that they wanted to, that direction was already there, there was already a component of it already. And so I think that they just really leaned into it. The Miami thing actually, obviously brought it up fully all the way to speed, but there was always an element of that going there. I mean, there's a strong, almost like early 90s Sega Genesis vibe, going on, maybe almost like Castlevania or Mega Man or something like that.
Totally.
And so the elements there, and so it kind of just naturally fit in,
Is there a chance for this trio to become a foursome at any point in time?
Well, we've always talked about having foursomes, but I think maybe, I mean, really, if you listen to the amount of tracks that are on the record, to pull this stuff off live is going to be 8, 9, maybe 10 musicians.
I was going to say, I don't care how good Donnie is on with his fingers there, he's still going to need some help.
That's right. I mean, there's so many guitar tracks. It's like there's got to be like 30 or 40 guitar tracks or something. I mean, actually, overall, I heard there was 750 tracks on the record, you know, including demo stuff. And but if you think about how are you going to pull off 750 tracks live, right? It's meant that there'll probably be maybe some secret service, you know, some extra help, maybe some guests. I mean, there's tons of guests on the records.
There are tons of guests on the record. And
Right.
how was that process? Were they guests on the record under duress, or were they guests on the record by their own free will?
There's a couple that were coerced, I guess you would say. There were some black bags over their head, you know, that kind of stuff for the folks that weren't willing. And then there were some folks that were willing right off the get, you know, fans of the band.
Wow, that is, because it's quite the list. There's a lot of extra add-ons, specifically with the solos, which was really nice because I wasn't expecting that. So it's an album that you come in with certain expectations, but then when you listen to it, it offers a lot more than what it's almost like the Transformers. There's more than meets the eye.
Great show, man. Great show. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like there's a band that doesn't have the limitations that normal bands do, you know, especially in the metal genre. You know, if you think about it, it's like always, is this part too pretty? You know, is this part too funky? You know, and you go through it and you think about it, and with this band, they can do anything they want. They can play anything they want. There could be Baroque on there. There's samba. You know, there's a part inspired by Debussy. You know, there's parts that are synth wave. There's straight up jant. You know, there's anything. The band can play anything they want. Doesn't really matter, you know. And so I think like getting the guests to come on and bring out these different flavors of guitar playing. We've got Bruce Lamont, who did the saxophone on there. We've got Hilary Schefter, great harpist playing real harp on Air Force Fun. And Scott Carstairs, or we call him Scott Truck Ramp, from Fallujah. Great place to visit as well. I've been there.
Great vacation destination, I must say.
Great food, man. Really great food.
Spicy.
Very spicy. It's got a lot of bang to it. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. It's explosive on the way in and on the way out.
Yeah, you almost have to use some chipotle away.
Yes.
Are you familiar? It's great product.
You definitely need to keep your Imodiums close by. I have to mention this because I thought of all the things that the album offered that I wasn't expecting, the thing that surprised me the most was the correlation between the sound of the songs and the title of the songs, which I thought was genius. When you listen to the song, the title of the song and the sound go together as one. So even though there's no vocals, the sound kind of becomes the lyrics that bring the title of the track to life, which I thought was just really well put together, really well done. But it also brought me the question of what came first, the chicken or the egg? So did the song get created and that inspired the title, or did you have the title in mind and that inspired the sound?
Well, that's a great comment. I'm sure the guys would be super great, elated to hear that. And there's a bit of both, actually. And one thing that not a lot of guys know, that a lot of the time, the actual music itself will be influenced by the future vision of the video. So they're thinking in their minds, you know, a lot of times, like a lot of the stuff will be nylon guitar first. Donnie writes it on nylon, and then, you know, puts it into Guitar Pro, sends it over to the other lads. But a lot of times too, and so sometimes there are song titles that go first. And sometimes the song will sort of have a vibe to it, and they'll try to find a title that'll fit, and then they end up influencing each other. So it does have that kind of a vibe. I mean, with Air Force Fun, it always kind of sort of had like a Top Gun type of vibe to it. It's just like felt like something that could be like, you know, an alternate Top Gun soundtrack or score, you know, and so it kind of lends itself into it, right? And then as most of the songs are in, I would say 70% of the songs are decided, the titles are decided in the studio working on the stuff. So then they end up influencing a little bit the sound, you know, how it's going to come out.
One of those songs that has that great correlation is Vamos Brandito, which I love. I love the title of that song, but more so because the sound is very Latin inspired. So it was the perfect example of how title and song goes together. How was that track? Because it's also a track that's quite heavy, perhaps one of the heaviest tracks, not consistently heavy from beginning to end, but
Of course.
one of the heaviest tracks on the album.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean that one in particular, just knowing starting out with that flamenco, you know, kind of a vibe.
Very Argentinian.
Right, exactly. And so as we were tossing around song titles, um, you know, it's almost like there'll be a list of the song titles the guys will be throwing around, and then it'll be obvious which one's supposed to go where, you know. And some of them like some of them will have working titles like right off the get, you know, and then the working title will be close to doing exactly what you're talking about, where they're trying to have the song emulate the title and vice versa. And so it'll just take like a minor tweak. We'll just need a slight variation. I believe that song was what was the original working title of that one? I think it might have been Supreme Leader Two Step. It might have been. No, the Two Step was ended up being Apocalypse Mao. But there was like Netflix and Chill was originally Secret Service Samba, right? So they're like, it's close, but I think we can do better, you know, and I just keep pushing them to do better. So yeah, so that is great that you noticed that though. I mean, there's a lot of stuff with this band that it's really, you've got to dig a little bit deeper, and it's great if you just want to take it for surface level and just listen to it and enjoy it, or just watch the video and one time. But if you dig, there's layers and layers and layers to this stuff. You know, it's
I
really
agree
it's
100%.
it's extremely well thought out, and they just work on it way too much. You know, we've probably got a lot of better things they should be doing with their lives, but
Well,
it's a
and
lot of
speaking of
fun.
better things to do with their lives, it takes me to another song that I want to talk to you about, which is Critical Bass Theory.
Aye,
I'm not quite sure what that means, but it definitely meant that we got to hear a lot more of Vladdy P on the bass on that track.
correct.
Was that him putting the gun to the head? I don't mean to give you any PTS on this, but was him like really pushing the envelope on that one?
I think that one was one of the. There's a few songs on the record. A lot of times it starts out with Donny. Most times it starts out with Donny, and most times on a nylon. Just to have that sort of. It was like the original impetus for the song. Everything had this classical nylon, almost Latin infused nylon guitar playing, and so that one they actually got together, and Vladdy and Donny ended up. Vladdy had some stuff already, you know, that was something Vladdy already had, and Donny's like, I like that. We should put that in a song. And so that one was built out to off the bass, as opposed to regularly, you know. I mean, but Donny's like quite amicable towards, and he's very gracious with the spacing, and when he's writing the parts, it's not like he's just like playing guitar all over the fucking place and just like, ooh, I'm gonna shred my way through this whole fucking song and not leave any room for anybody else. There's there's a lot of consideration for the other musicians, right? Like we call it, like when he's writing the songs, he'll send them to Vladdy, and they'll say like Vladland, right? And that's where the guitar really just chills out and just kind of amps with like a wah or something like that. And then he's like, Donny's leaving the space there for Vladdy to do some crazy shit, you know. And so that's kind of one of the songs where it was like sort of inverted. You know, it was like starting with the bass first, and really kind of like building the structure out of it that way. You know, and this was a lot of stuff that he was able to get in there, and it's a fun one. Great track, slamming the whole way through. I don't think there's any gas on that song.
I
That's
don't
all
think
right.
so. I
Don't
don't
have
think
to have
so.
a guest on every song.
At least I didn't pick it up when I was listening to it.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you, and that is, we've talked a little bit about it, but I want to dig a little bit deeper, and that is about taking this threesome on the road. Is there any plans, maybe not in the near future, but at least down the line, considering now you have a full length record coming out, not just an EP? Is there plans? Is that a project in progress, if you will, to get Nuclear Power Trio to tour across the world, but starting off with North America would be nice.
Aye, yeah. There's been plans. There's been, you know, the talks of the live stuff has been going on for as long as the band as long as music has been out, and there's just a lot of uh obstacles I guess you've got to overcome to figure out how to get to do it live. You know, one of them being, like you said, like it's not really a trio. You know, it's very far from a trio. There's so much music going on, and the guys are kind of old school where they don't want to use tracks. You know, it's like, I mean, maybe synth, or maybe, like, you know, the string sections on parts, because there's lots of string sections. Maybe some very light backing tracks you could use, but then you're limited. Then you've got to play to a click, you know. And so it's one of those things where they're like, they really want to represent that old school, this is live type of ethos without having to resort to playing. They've got 3 backing tracks on guitar, and the saxophone is on this part, is backing track, because on the record it's all real horns, real sax, real trumpet, real trombone, real harp. You know, they really didn't want to. I mean, the synth is real. It's a real synth. But so there's been offers already as well. Pretty good offers as well. You know, it's basically like, once the guarantees get up to a certain point that we can't, that the group won't be able to say no to it, that's when it'll happen. You know, it's like figuring out, you'll need a whole crew, and you know, it's got to be a great production. You know, so most likely festivals will probably be the easiest way to, like, get in there and start, you know, putting it on where it's already set up, you know, maybe a 35 or 45-minute set. So I think that might be the way into it. And there's been some offers already so far. There are the band's got a couple booking agents as well, so just really waiting for everything to kind of line up right, and do it in a way that matches the grandiosity of the characters, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking you guys maybe could go together with Galactic Empire.
That almost happened, actually. Back during the pandemic, there was a like a live stream that was going to be done together with Galactic.
Oh, I think that would have been amazing.
Would have been great.
I've had the pleasure of seeing them live at a festival, and
Really?
it was phenomenal show. Phenomenal show.
Yeah, we were talking with those guys, and just, you know, great band to get inspiration from, you know, as far as, you know, going up on stage and having this big showcase, and, you know, even taking stuff, inspiration from like Guar and bands like that, where you've got it's more of like a presentation. It's entertainment, you know. It's
Exactly. It's not just music. It's multi-dimensional, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing it represents, like, politics in the world as well. You know, it's a giant game. It's a giant WWF. You know, it's all fake pro wrestling. You know, they're all on the same team. You know, it's all, the fans are all thinking it's real. It's not real. You know, it's all fake.
Funny that you mentioned that, because in a couple of days I'm going to go see AEW pay-per-view, Forbidden Door. So funny enough.
That's fucking great, man. I love The Undertaker. He's my favorite.
I think he retired. I think he's dead now, isn't he? Or no, he retired. Well, he was always been dead. He's the undead, whatever.
He's always been dead, yeah. But I think he's doing real estate.
He's got he's doing real estate now.
I mean, like, investing and things like that, you know. Yeah.
Because I figure in the afterlife there's probably a lot of real estate.
You'd be surprised, man. It's getting fucking crowded. a lot of fucking dead people, man. There's more dead people now than there ever have been.
Yeah, that's a record that gets broken every day.
That's right, man. Every day, more dead people.
I know.
Like, they keep showing up, huh? Where are they all coming from?
You probably keep seeing dead people, which is not a great thing either.
I thought it was a sixth sense, but turns out I was dead the whole time as well.
Exactly. Well, Abe, sorry for calling you that.
That's all right, man. I'm getting used to it.
Thank you for taking the time today to chat with me about Nuclear Power Trio. I hope to see you guys on the road, you with the band managing, pulling all the strings backstage. So I'm looking forward to that. Once again, man, really, thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thanks so much. And I've just got to say, the guys watched your reaction video, and we don't think we've ever seen anyone get the band quite as well as you two. You know, like it really, like all of the underlying message and the underlying, you know, organizational principles and everything. Your guys' channel, you guys nailed it. You know, it was like fine. The first time we were watching a reaction video and being like, so these guys get it, like they 100% they get the whole thing, and it was just great for us to see. It was like our favorite reaction video, favorite, you know, outside perception of the band, where guys
Oh,
really
I
understood what was.
appreciate that. I'll pass that message to my son. I'll let him know he's a big fan of the band. And I'm a big fan of this new record. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Like you said earlier, you can just listen across the surface and then really enjoy the sound, or you can just start to peel the layers and really discover that the album is like the Transformers, you know, more than meets the eye.
It's great, man. Thanks so much. Pleasure to meet you.
Take care, man. All the best.
Most definitely. Take care, man.